guys, what's going on? Megan here. On the way to the gym. Sorry it's been a while. So I've uploaded videos, been super busy like I warned y'all. Mainly trading stocks and things like that. Day trading takes a lot of fucking time out of your schedules. Especially because most of the work is done when the market is closed, you know what I mean? The work is not done on during the trading hours. It's done when you planning, researching, getting ready for the next trades, on and so forth. So anyway, but I still respond to messages and things like that. And then that's what I decide to make videos on. If I see that a lot of questions are being asked, then I'll make a video on it. And this is what this video is for. I know there's a lot of people asking for the good old motivation, bro, wisdom videos. So there goes one. This one is on something I feel is probably the one of the most important things that I've learned over time. My 27 years of living. I believe it's probably one of the most important principles. I learned a lot of fucking principles. I have a whole list. Every time I learn a new principle and I test it and I apply it to my life and I notice, oh wow, this shit really works. I add it to my list and then I have like so many of them. And then I rank them based on the top 5, the top 10, on and so forth. This one is definitely in the top 5. It's not just a principle, it's a fucking law, guys. It's a law. And I just call it the law of the strong, or the law of momentum, whatever you want to fucking call it. I'm pretty sure other people have called it different things. It's not new. It's not anything that I came up with. It's something that you'll observe. You could observe in nature. You observe in science, in art, in bodybuilding, anywhere. And it's simply the simple fact that in the world that we live in, guys, the strong get stronger and the weak get weaker. It sounds simple. Mind you, when you hear something simple, pay close attention to it, because most of the deepest and most applicable principles I ever learned were the simplest ones. And in fact, that's why I overlooked them my entire life, because they were so simple. I figured, humans, we're always looking for a complex, secret, fancy truth or fact. And when we hear something simple, we're like, it doesn't sound deep enough, so next. And then eventually we come back and we're like, wow, the simplest, keep it simple, stupid, right? The simplest things work. And that law is so important. It is all around us. It is all around us. The strong get stronger, the weak get weaker. We think, using our system 1 bullshit ass way of thinking, we think that, eventually the weak will become strong, and then those that are too strong will become weak. Because if something is too high, eventually it'll come down, and if something is too low, eventually it'll reverse and go up. We have that it's that fallacy, that bias. That's what it's gambler's fallacy, where people, they go in and gamble. When the more they lose, the more they think, I'm so close to winning because I've been losing for so long. No, motherfucker, that's not how that's not how shit works. The law of the strong, the law of momentum. Think about it, guys. The stronger, use anything. You can use bodybuilding. You can use. Matter of fact, let's start with examples. Look at bodybuilding, right? Or just look at powerlifting first, right? The strong become stronger, right? So let's say you're a powerlifter. You start off, right? Let's say you start off in high school. You guys graduate out of high school. You and your friends, 5 of y'all motherfuckers, and you guys are like, 18 years old. One of you fuckers is genetically stronger. For whatever reason. There's always that one guy that's just strong as fuck. There's nothing you can do about that, no matter what he did. So you guys start powerlifting, and one of the guys is just genetically the weakest. So you have 2 outliers. You have one that's genetically strong and one that's genetically weak, and then the other ones are in the middle, the bell-shaped curve. What happens? They go to the gym, they start powerlifting, right? The guy that's naturally strong, boom, he goes there, he starts moving weight. What happens? When everyone notices that he's stronger, he gets all the praise. His friends are like, damn, bro, you're so strong. That gets to his head. It gets his testosterone going. You guys know your testosterone is affected by your social status. So his testosterone starts to go up. His confidence goes up. And guess what happens? He gets that dopamine spike, right? And what does dopamine do? It reinforces behavior. So he goes, yeah, I like that. So the next day he goes back and he tries to put on even more weight because he's feeding off that energy that he's getting. And everybody knows progressive overload. He lifts more and more weights. He gets stronger and stronger. And what happens when he gets stronger and stronger? A year later, you see that he's benching, like 3 plates or some shit. Right? I'm just making up numbers. What happens? He gets all the looks in the gym. Everyone is asking him for tips. Like, bro, how'd you get your bench so big, man? What's your protein? What do you eat? Whatever. And what happens? That reinforces his behavior. He goes, yeah, I love this shit, man. And next thing you go, he's doing 4 plates, and then he just keeps getting stronger and stronger, just living off that fucking energy, right? Now let's go back to the beginning when they all started training. Let's look at the guy that was the weakest genetically, right? We like to hear the hero stories. The underdog became strong. No, most of the time that's not what happens. What happens to the weak guy? He goes and he's lifting, and everyone's like, "Damn, man, it's okay, bro. You know, you be able to get up there." Or people are like, you know, patronizing him, like, "It's all right. You know, it's all right. You know, just keep trying. Eventually you get strong." And in the back of, you know, when he turns around, they're like, "Yo, this nigga weak as fuck." You know. So what happens to him? He gets discouraged. He goes online, tries to read books and shit, tries to look for ways to get stronger. So at first he has the motivation, he has the desire. And then guess what happens? Because he did all of that work to try to get stronger, when he goes back to the gym and he notices that his strength is not going up as fast as he wants, now he gets even more frustrated, right? And he starts overcomplicating things. He starts, you know, doing more shit than that's necessary. He starts just deviating from the simple things that work, and next thing you know, he snaps his shoulder up, or he gets into an injury, or eventually, boom, you know, he gets weaker and weaker. And he goes back to the gym, and people are like, "Damn, you've been lifting for that long, and you're still that weak." And what happens? That makes him feel awkward. That makes him feel, insecure. His self-esteem goes down. And then he goes back home and he looks for more stuff and more stuff. And then eventually he becomes weaker and weaker. And then he quits. And what happens when he quits? Now it's worse. Everyone's like, "Hey, you a quitter," this and that. And that makes him even more and more and more and more mentally unstable. And he becomes weaker. The law of the strong. The strong get stronger, the weak get weaker. Look at bodybuilding. Look at building muscle. Same scenario, right? You go to the gym. If you not necessarily genetically better at building muscle, but let's just say you go to the gym, you have average genetics, and you start building muscle. What happens? You have more muscle, you have more mind-muscle connection, you have more, you could recruit more motor units. So you start lifting, you start getting the little noob gains. You go out and people tell you, "Oh man, you look bigger, bro. Look what happened. You've been bigger. What you been doing?" You get excited. You're like, "Yeah, bitch, yeah." And what happens? You go back in the gym. You lift harder, you eat more, you get bigger again. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, you blew up." And you go, "Yeah." You go back, you get stronger and stronger. What happens to the guy who goes to the gym, works out, and let's say he does a fucked up work, let's say he has good genetics, but he just does a fucked up workout program or some shit, right? So meaning he had the potential to build muscle, but he does a fucked up training program, or he eats crappy or whatever, or he overcomplicates things, and then he doesn't get the gains that he expects. What happens? He goes to the gym, he notices everyone else is getting bigger, he gets discouraged, he starts overcomplicating things, he gives up, he stops lifting. Next thing you know, he loses gains. When he loses gains, he goes, "Ah, man, fuck it, all right, I want to make a New Year resolution," and blah, blah. Next thing you know, he goes into that downward spiral, and he gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, right? He loses strength, so he can't lift as much, and then eventually, he goes, see, it's a perfect example. The weak get weaker, the strong get stronger. Look at, not to make this video too long, look at money, look at trading, stock, day trading, investing, whatever the fuck you're doing. You cannot make money in the stock market unless you start off with money. I don't care what, I know everyone likes to gravitate towards the crazy success stories. A person turned $500 into $1 million, all that shit. That's the outliers, man. We have this representative bias that we see something and we think it applies to all of us. Like trading is a 90% success rate, 90 to 95. That means in a room of 10 people, only one motherfucker will actually be successful. But yeah, you go into that room of 10 people and you ask them, "Hey, there's a 90% chance of failure. None of y'all fuckers are not gonna be successful in trading. Which one of you guys think is gonna be?" Everyone's gonna raise their hand. "Oh, I'm the one that's gonna make it." You see, everyone thinks that, they're the exception to the rule. So yeah, don't look at those stories. Look at in general. We live in a world where you need money to make money, right? Whether it's by leveraging, whether it's by borrowing somebody in your family, whatever. It's a fucked up world we live in, guys. But guess what? That's the law of the universe, the law of nature, right? Strength brings more strength. Weakness brings more weakness. We look at people like Warren Buffett. We look at the millionaires, and we're like, "Oh my God, that person is so rich." Yeah, he didn't start broke. Yes, the person did hard work and research and did all that stuff, but it started off with an advantage, and then they just built on the advantage. They're built on that momentum. When you're poor, you get poorer. Why? Because you're already poor. You can't invest a lot of your money when you're poor. You can't, try to start and fund your business when you're poor. So what happens? You start, you're paying your bills. You're trying to just, make it or whatever. You get weaker and weaker. You get poorer and poorer, right? Then and because you're poor, and you can't enjoy the finer things in life, you make dumb decisions, you blame society, you blame the government, whatever. So you develop a pussy mentality, and guess what happens? You stop taking risks because you're trying to protect the little bitch ass money that you got, and by trying to protect it, you know, what happens? You end up losing it because you grow money by spending money. You know, not spending on shitty assets, but, you know, on investing or putting into work and all that shit. So it's the same principle, you know. Look at the wild, look at nature, man. You know, lions genetically bigger and stronger than most animals. You know, not most animals, but, you know, the animals that they hunt over. And guess what? That makes it so that they get more food. More food makes them bigger, stronger. They have more territory. Now that they have more territory, now they go ahead and, you know, it also applies to our testosterone levels. You know, I told you guys, I love studying testosterone. It's an amazing hormone because look how testosterone works. They find out that if you take take two boxers, two people start fighting, right? Before the fight, both men's testosterone levels go up. Right before the fight. During the fight, testosterone levels are going up. Obviously, you know, think about it. Risk-taking behavior, all that stuff, you know, is correlated with testosterone. The winner, you would think testosterone, you know, will go back down because the fight is over. No, the winner testosterone levels goes up. The loser's testosterone levels go down. So the winner's testosterone levels go up. So he's able to, obviously, you know, he has a high from winning. His T levels go up. She's bad as fuck. Damn it. Sorry guys. What was I saying? Fucking women, man. The booty. Shit, man. I literally went blank. Yeah. So he wins. His T levels go up. He recovers faster. All of that shit. He feels better. The loser, you would think, well, he should have a high T level so he could recover and, you know, go back in the gym and train. No, his cortisol levels goes up. His body starts, you know, fucking releasing all these stress hormones. And next thing you know, right, he gets weaker. It's the same cycle over and over and over again, guys. Guys, and I forgot to add another example. It's one of the most important ones I keep getting questions on. The same thing applies. I was telling my brother about this. The same thing applies to girls, right? Because I keep getting questions. A lot of people are, you know, going through the teenage years and they're still going through the whole phase where they're like, oh, I need more confidence. I want to know how to talk to girls. It's the exact same principle. Think about it. Why is it that we all start off, obviously, we all start off virgins, right? And eventually you lose your virginity. And what happens when you lose your virginity? Whether you're 15, 16, 17, whenever that happens. You have this avalanche of just pussy, right? It's like you go into this, you go from having a dry fucking penis your whole fucking life, and next thing you know, you break that first wall, and then boom, 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 boom. You just keep on fucking the entire life. And you're like, oh man, it becomes easier and easier and easier. What happens to the guy who just refuses to take the risk and refuses to, you know, walk up and experience the rejection that you have to go through the rejection phase to obviously build the confidence of being able to, like, talk to girls and just be yourself and be in your shoes? What happens to people that refuse to go through that stage, right? They're like, oh, no, you know, no, I don't want to get rejected. I want my first attempt to be the right attempt. And I'm telling them, I'm like, look, you're going to stay a fucking virgin your whole fucking life, you know? And believe it or not, there's a lot of people that are over 20. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Depends on your morals, depends on your religion, all that shit. But for the people that are actually trying to get laid and then after 20 they still can't, they think it's because of looks. They think it's because of money. And I would tell them, no, that's just an fucking excuse, right? You know, I was never the richest. I was never the tallest, the most handsome. Never. You know, it was just volume. I would say volume. You know, just doing something over and over again. You build experience. You build confidence. Eventually, you realize, hey, women are just women. Guys are just guys. You know, it's not a big deal. Next, you know, you start flowing, and then victories lead to victories. Conquests lead to more conquests. Next, thing you know, it's an easy thing, right? But the guy that refuses to break his fear and then go in and experience that rejection, and he's like, no, you know, I'd rather be 0 for 0. You know, it's like the guy that refuses to shoot so that he could be 0 for 0 instead of being like a 16%. Instead of having a 16% field goal percentage, he prefers to have a 0% field goal percentage. You know what I mean? And like they say, you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. What happens to this guy? He gets weaker and weaker and weaker. He gets older. He gets fatter. You know, he's depressed. His T levels drop. I mean, it's just, and then it's a downward spiral from there. So even that thing applies to women. You know, it applies to dating. It applies to relationships. You know, people say, how do I get confidence? You start off with the shit that you already have, and then you just keep trying. You just keep being yourself, and eventually it builds up. If you stop doing, it's like a muscle. You know, and if you stop, if you stop facing your fears and you keep trying to protect yourself from pain and rejection, what happens? You get weaker and weaker and weaker because you never expose yourself to that one thing which transforms you into a fucking monster, which is pain and rejection. I made a lot of videos about that. You know, people that try to stay safe don't go nowhere. You know? So yeah, that's just an example I forgot to throw in there. So how does this apply to you guys? How does this apply to life? Find out. That's why I keep telling you, Team 3D, dominant discipline direction. Find that what it is you are strong at already. I always say this, don't try to look for your weakest point and try to make it strong. No, it has a long way to fucking go. If your greatest weakness on a scale of 1 to 10, if your greatest weakness is at 1, and you're trying to bring it up to 10, that's 9 points you gotta go. Why not look at your strongest strength? It doesn't fucking make sense, but look at your strongest asset. It might be like a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10. You worry about bringing that shit to 10. You maximize the things you're already strong at, and you capitalize on that. Stop trying to fix all your fucking weaknesses. You'll always have weaknesses, and it will take you more energy to try to fix your weaknesses, and then you still, even if you spend on the energy, you still be below the person who's already naturally advanced or stronger in whatever that area is. You might as well focus all your energy on the things that you're already strong at, and let the momentum go, because that which is strong, we get stronger, and that which is weak, we get weaker. All right, guys? So just analyze yourself. Remember, I always preach about self-identity. Know who you are. Analyze your strengths and your weaknesses. Focus on your strengths. Focus on where the momentum is. You know, when you go here, you end up making bad. If you go to a certain place like the bars and you end up making bad decisions, just stop fucking going there. Go where every time you go, your life gets better. You know, you get stronger. And you know, the places that lead to the increase in momentum. You know, but anyway, guys, I gotta go to the fucking gym. I just want to get that out of my mind, because it will fix a lot of your problems if you put into perspective. If you actually step back and understand that that's really what everything boils down to. Find strength and build on it. All right, guys, I'm out of here. More videos coming soon. I keep trying to find time. I didn't forget you guys. I'm not gonna go a whole year without making videos again. I can promise you guys that. And comment below. Don't forget to vote, motherfuckers. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote on the videos you want to see next. I'm still checking the ratings, and it's based on that I make you guys that I make those vids. So go in the description or in the comment section. You see the links to each poll. Select the segments you want to see. After you select the segments you want to see, you could go to every segment also and pick the topics that you want to see videos on within each segment. You know what I mean? I made it so that it's 100% democracy, right? Democracy. I said that shit fucking exists. But anyway, guys, I'm out of here.